wake of COVID-19 saw a revolution in e-learning in this country. Ever since then, conversations have been going around the idea that students should go ahead and have phones in schools, among others. But also we saw very many institutions of learning, from secondary schools, primary schools, institutions of higher learning, advocating for a more digitalized form of learning. So joining me to discuss the pros and cons of e-learning in Uganda and its impact, but also what it means to the revolution of education in this country, is a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who will help us put context to the conversation and help us understand what this means for our country. So in no particular order, I'll just immediately start from my immediate right to my extreme right, quickly get a robust introduction from the able ladies and gentlemen, and then we can delve straight into the conversation. You're most welcome.
Hello everyone, thank you. My name is Kia Allen Olai. I'm a first year law student at Uganda Christian University. Thank you.
Thank you. Very happy to have you here and looking forward to having an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Drake. My name is Aruho. I'm a finalist, School of Law, Cavendish, University, Uganda.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank
Yes,
you so
Jovia.
much. My name is Jovia Kusiima and I'm a student of UCU doing a Master's in Development Monitoring and Evaluation. Nice to be here with you.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Amos and Kamuhabwa Stevie, a year 3 student doing a bachelor's in computer science, Ndejje University.
Nice. So as you can see, our panel is quite diverse. So we have lawyers, we have people doing computer science
And masters.
and masters. Yeah, definitely. So it's
Right.
it's a diverse but also very informal
True.
panel. So let's just delve straight into the conversation. Bran, I'm going to start with you. I think it's just prudent, even though ladies obviously have to come before gentlemen, but the fact that this conversation has been something that we have discussed before on numerous panels, but also understanding that you are the president of Cavendish University, an institution that has also taken keen interest in e-learning. We'd just like to get a broader context and a broader context to this conversation, understanding the pros and cons. But before even we break it down to understanding the pros and cons, how do you contextualize this conversation when we're focusing on e-learning, particularly on the aspect of changing the space of education in our country?
All right, thank you so much, Drake. I think to begin with, we need to thank God that as Uganda we experienced, or as the world generally, we experienced the COVID session, which to Uganda brought us to a lockdown and then made us look at the other options. The other options being e-learning, what people would call Zoom classes and related. Reason is, except for who is on our masters, most of us would want to fly out and then experience that sort of learning. But then we had that coming down when the lockdowns became intensified. Take for example, Cavendish had virtual classes, but they weren't that up to game. But because now they had no option, you had to now make partnerships. For example, we made a partnership with a Swiss company called Claned. Now Claned offered, it's called Claned, yes, they offered us with a platform called, which we now call the Cavendish University Learning Platform. Now, this is a platform that they also use in their countries back. Yes, the benefit with it is that even when your notes are stolen and things like that, you have a backup. So for example, right now I can log in and I have all my notes from semester 1 of law school till semester 8 where I currently am. All tests done and exams. So I think to that edge, the revolution was quite very inevitable because we needed it as students, we needed it on the part of lecturers, that is fair assessment, but then also the country in general because it counterchecks things like transcripts getting stolen, going missing, or them banning, should it reach that extent. You at least know that you have a backup of either your transcript, a backup of either your notes, or even assessments. Just say, for example, you've gone for internship in Gulu and things refuse. The benefit with some of these systems, I do not know about other institutions, but Cavendish in particular, is even as low as 1 MB, provided your document touches the submission part. At the other end, the receiving end, it shows that you tried to submit. Now, the university will call you back and say, oh, we understand that you got a network issue. You can just resubmit, but at least it was there. Though at the other end, it also has its disadvantages, I think later on in the discussion. But at that stage, we needed that revolution. As Uganda particularly, we needed something to take away the extravagant thinking of I need to fly out or I need to apply for a British master's degree so that I have that system. Yeah, so I think to my very end, most of these institutions needed them. Take for example, Makerere University. Makerere University at the very least needed this. UCU Mukono, because these are household institutions that we know. Your parents tell you either you've gone to Makerere or we shall count you as illiterate. Either you've gone to UCU, Mukono, or we shall say you do not love the Christian faith. Now, when you go to those institutions, there is a rigid thinking that everything has to be traditional. Then, which now at least you find they have virtual classes because that is very inevitable. We also thought that at that stage, no institution would ever have an e-graduation. And we had an e-graduation in 2021, which happened, it was successful, and you just had to sit home, listen to your name being read, and then move. Later on, last year but one rather, we had people like Kakwenza graduating virtually, I mean, because of the political climate. But nonetheless, I think this is something all of us needed, just to break down the ice.
All right, great. That's a very good context to understanding it from a perspective of institutions of higher learning. Let me just get to Jovia. I'd like to pick your insights, first of all, on your understanding and context to this conversation, but also want you to look at it from an angle of lower institutions of learning, primary school, secondary school. Our brothers and sisters in that period of COVID, we saw that schools adopted a hybrid format of learning, in that they were going ahead to offer Zoom classes, among others. So our siblings were asking for this. They're asking for tablets, asking for smartphones, among others. So as we discuss this, we just need to put context, then we can dissect the pros and then look at the cons. But just want to pick your insights on that context.
Okay, thank you so much, moderator. Well, to me, e-learning is the electronic technology that came up during COVID-19, 2020. But the good thing is that as for UCU, to remember very well, we had already started using Moodle, and I've seen Victoria University using the V-Class, that's how it's called. And also, when I look back to the way the children were, according to the organization that I'm heading, people had what? People had to really take on a lot of effort. However, some parents were really disagreeing with that. How can a young child study online? How can they have phones? So it was bad and good, especially we have parents that are really, I may not say backward, but they have a lot of culture. Yes, exactly. And you find a parent, for my sake, my mom or my dad, they are really hard for you to use a phone. Me personally, I've grown up in an enclosed nuclear family, and using a phone, that started when I was coming to campus.
Don't be shocked, my brother.
It's not surprising.
It's when my dad came, like everything went on well, but he was like, let her use the laptop. You can imagine. And you find yourself, and when like lecturers were asking why she needs a smartphone, but my dad would be like, she can get the smartphone after.
All right.
Yeah.
So Amos, let's not delve into first of all the pros. We understand that when we're looking into the cons, there are very many things and very many factors that are at play.
Yeah.
Just like what my sisters mentioned, we have those cultural inclinations, we have those ideologies that most parents have that maybe even affect the revolution in terms of people adopting e-learning mechanisms. But let's look at the pros. When we look at e-learning, a mechanism that even the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education and Sports wants to adopt. A few days ago, the Minister of Education, Honorable Janet Kataha Museveni, made mention that schools are now going to be, given the leeway to allow students to come with phones, but obviously they need to go through a thorough check, and there are some mechanisms that they highlighted.
Yes.
So what are those pros that we are to achieve as a nation, considering that we are in what they term as we are in a highly we're in a period of high tech, or what others call as the 20, is it 20, they term it as the 20 something revolution. If I get the term, I'm mentioning right. But the question is, what are those advantages that we shall attain as a nation when our students, our pupils, have access to smartphones?
Okay. Thank you, sir. On that question, I think I have more cons than pros, because it is not really.
Let's start with the pros.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it like I have the advantages, but I think they weigh more than the. The advantages way more than the advantages. Yes, the advantages are many than the advantages. According to the pros, one, when you look at e-learning currently, it is something that has really eased education more so and higher institutions of learning. Yes, because you find out that I'm a year 3 student, but have a timetable, and I'm a day student, I have to be at school from Monday to Friday. But I only attend a math lecture, that is Tuesday. Other lectures are online. You find it easy. You can really do something that is beneficial in that time of spending at campus Monday to evening. You find it that you've saved that time and you've done something productive. So
but education is also productive. Though.
Yeah, it is. It is, but life, for example, I'm old, we are old. Life, if I be at campus from Monday to Friday, then I need something, you understand? Yes, so
you need money.
Yes, I need money. So how will I get money when Monday to Friday I'm at campus? Weekends, most of the companies and so on, they don't work. So I have to fix my time.
So your rationale entirely lies on the backdrop that you see we are in an age whereby you need to balance education and work, but also to raise resources for yourself.
Of course.
But then you're a full-time student as well. So e-learning is one mechanism that helps you shoot two birds with one stone.
No, yeah, true. But what I'm trying to mean is, instead of attending a lecture of Monday from 8 to 11 or 12, then I can put my earpods in my ears. I do my stuff. For example, I'm a detergent producer. I produce detergents, bar soap, liquid soap. So it's easy for me to mix my chemicals while I'm in the lecture.
So how sure are we that you're paying attention?
Yes, I do. Because
let's just stop there. Because I remember during the days of COVID, when you're attending lectures, you'd find someone who's on that bed, and they turn on the laptop or their phones and doze off. True. So the lecturers, you may find very much by doing that, and it's worse when it was raining and having a lecture.
Just doze.
So you just put on your device and then later on doze off, and then you just wake up when the roll call. You say yes, present, and then you log out. But shall get to that. Let me just get to Alan. So looking at the pros.
Okay.
The possibility of having access to information is so powerful. We are in an age whereby all you need to do is just by a click of a phone. You pick your phone, search whichever information you're looking for, and read. But even in this age whereby we have access to all that information, we're still greatly distracted with applications like, others would say TikTok, but others say TikTok is still very educational as well. But I just want to for now focus still on the pros. How will the proposed idea, the policy of Ministry of Education to allow our younger brothers in primary and secondary school have phones in school be of beneficial aid to them?
I would start with what's your previous argument. I would say it comes with a personal initiative from an individual. We need to appreciate the fact that we are evolving. We cannot run away from that truth. A time is going to come, we shall all have the tech around us. And we won't keep running because of the customs, the norms. We can't claim around that. We need to appreciate that it's evolving. And I'm going to run to the countries from which we learn and adopt so many customs. That's the Western world. You'll notice that these young people use this particular online studies and everything. So I would say we shall need a fallback point where we need to like a ground study from how they do it. But if they are able to achieve, if their youths are able to employ themselves, I loved his suggestion of it's very gainful for one to study and work. You know, when you're studying online, I personally, I volunteer at an organization. So there are days when I will need to be there and I cannot go because I need to be in class physically. But when I'm at work, there's an hour that would be free. I can request my boss, attend to the lecture for that hour and continue with my work. See? But now I'm needed in class, so it becomes very technical. Going to your question of our primary schools and secondary schools adopting this technology, I will still fall back to that ideology that we are evolving and we can't run away from that truth. The best way we can do is maybe find ways of monitoring these gadgets, just like they looked at it, like monitor. The new curriculum needs a lot of research. You're not going to say that you're going to go to the computer labs. They're so small, yeah. So it's going to ease the work, and it's going to help the schools in that if maybe, let me say, Bishop Cipriano, my former school, has good content as a secondary school. When they upload the content, a child in a rural area, you see, is able to get this content if there's a way they can align it for everyone to be able to be on the same page. Yeah. So I remember one of our lecturers, some content that she shared on her YouTube channel is actually helping us. But this is content that was shared during COVID. See?
Allow me to interject.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic here.
Yes.
We have the internet penetration in this country is quite low.
Yeah.
Access to education is still an issue. But even schools do not have access to computers. If you have schools even within the city that do not have chairs or desks for students to sit on, how sure are we that they will be able, even first of all, to access the computers too, for their parents to be able to buy those smartphones to access the internet? Let's say even their parents are able to get for them the barest minimum of a smartphone. Can they even afford the data?
No, like as a country, we need to keep pushing. You know, this is a system we can take. It's going to take time, but it will sink in. We shall not keep hoping until we make it for us to push. Let's use whatever we have. If they're able, look at the census. What did they use?
It's okay.
Thank you.
Let me just,
So if we can keep pushing step by step, we shall eventually get there. But if we keep running east, west, north, south, let's push how far we can go.
Right.
Like the new curriculum, if you notice, there are some schools that have adopted to it quite fast. There are some schools that are still struggling to get there, but they will eventually get there. If those who are able to, if you keep them away because we think there's a category that may not be able to receive, it's going to delay our movement.
All right, true, okay, true. It's going to delay our movement. Governance, that's a question I'm going to now pose to my brother, Aruho. That's an issue or an area that is quite lacking in this country. Education, when it comes to the national cake in terms of our budget, is among the most, at least the least funded areas. And right now there's a policy, and they want schools to go ahead and allow students coming with smartphones, but even when they come with smartphones, they should be subjected to a particular policy that they say they need to check that they're in the right format to avoid the unnecessary distraction that they claim would have. Still on the question of governance, the government is opting for a policy after realizing that the curriculum that they have in place is not working. They're now allowing students to come with phones to schools. Now the students that are allowing to come with phones to schools are students who are, first of all, greatly from home. They're not allowed to use phones. They cannot control themselves to use these phones. The argument is we need to move that step forward. But with moving that step forward, you have seen recent reports that show that the productivity rate of Ugandans who are produced now in the next 20 years is going to be at less than 3%. So shall we really have productive Ugandans go through our system with this policy in place? I just wanted to assess that policy.
Okay, thank you. This is a double-edged sword. It has pros and cons. Now, luckily enough, I have a school that I run called Litorina, started in 2007. Though it's primary, nursery and primary. So just to give you a background to how disadvantageous some things can be. Around when we came off the COVID lockdown, that break where the president allowed schools to operate, we were told to make sure our children, our pupils have milk 3 days of the week. And it was tough. So either you afford a meal or a school tuition. Some schools would afford because of the school fees payment plan. And others are international schools and others are local schools. So at that stage, there is a different discussion. Why I'm bringing that is so that it can give us a context now. When you say some students are not allowed to have their phones at home, you're mainly looking at kids who are not in international schools and also not in the high standard traditional schools like KCB, SMAC, and the related. Really, you're bringing that discussion now back to the normal grassroots.
Who are the majority?
Yes, who are the majority. Now, this pushes you either, not sound rude, the government is pushing you to the corner of either your parents work hard and afford, or you use your brains and get a scholarship to those schools. Or the third option being, during your holidays, please be smart.
But Brian, even if you use your brains,
I'm trying to come to that. I'm trying to come to that. Reason is, when Mrs. Janet, Honorable Janet was talking about this, and she said we're in partnership with NITA and the related, we are going to give you tablets that have the academic access only. Take for example, at Cavendish, we have that Planet platform. Now, the partnership we have with Airtel is they provide us with free data. But that data can only access Planet, only. Even if you open and you went to Google, it would not, your Google won't run. So you have to just switch back to your data. But when you go on Planet, it will open and give you everything. So you cannot download anything that is off. It is just streamlined directly to that specific application. So I think to a certain area, it could help. But now you're dealing with a generation of a certain clique of people in this generation who are very well versed with technology. I mean, because they can you can say that data is going to access only this, but a kid has studied IT. Or a kid has grown up from a family, is the last born, their siblings have been in this whole cyber lineage. It's not going to help because either way, if they wanted to access any music video, they will access. If they wanted to access pornography, they will access. These are all things which can be watched regardless of the time frame. You can be teaching and I'm watching pornography. You can be teaching and I'm chatting with her. I mean, just gets down to, you asked if we'll have that. Yes. The same way we say success has different achievements and failures, and we have different approaches. You cannot say we are all going to be successful. Neither can you say that the technology bit is going to be advantageous to all of us. But I, for one, I would really, really push for government to try to sit down and calm down with. It's different having board organization meetings and then you come and implement. Because the implementation really pains the people who are down, not you the implementers. So you need to, because like teachers have that National Teachers Association, you should sit down with them and then first assess. Because you need to know that if we are giving this in, let's say they pass it out, yeah? The one in our government, obviously, it's going to pass out. Can the schools in Mukono all afford? Say, for example, she has a school and has 60 students. Will all the 60 students have access to the tablets? Then if she has a school in Akapiripiriti, the way she has a school in Mukono, it's the same way her kids must have internet reliability. It's the same way they should have stable network. It's the same way they should have the tablets. Yeah, and that is regardless of, you cannot say now we are going to first make a case study, because when they're making case studies, they will go to Kampala parents. But we need you to go to maybe Sorority girls and see, is that going to work? Yet, do they even have the network? Do they have that bandwidth? Because yes, you might give me the tablet, but then I subscribe to what is this new technology, SIM card that came? Leica. You may subscribe to Leica. So you want, when it threatens to rain, I just get out of class. Because in Uganda, rain and electricity are like this, are very distant cousins. So then what happens to the network? That's the sort of question that I think Honorable Janet should sit down with her team and first assess well, instead of rushing. We do not have the money.
And then you have something to say.
Yes.
It's burning, guys.
Yeah, it's burning. So I'm just wondering from his argument, I don't know whether we are going to, my argument is just simple. Are we just going to say, okay, since Uganda can't afford, let's not adopt the technology?
No, we should adopt.
So so we are going to adopt. So what happens? Are we going to say, because just like your strategy, just like your idea came up, you say somebody in Nakapuriti. Now imagine like 60 students are able to afford, has 60 can't. So what happens? Do we sit back and say, okay, they can't afford, let's stick to what we had in the old days?
But that is still contradictory to your first argument.
My first argument is basically saying we need to appreciate that this is coming, and let's use whatever we can
Thank you.
to stick to move.
Okay, so
So-
in us appreciating, so we also then need to appreciate the fact that we have poor citizens.
Yes.
Yes, we do. That's why I started by
41%
saying it's a
according to
personal
UBOS,
initiative.
Yes, 41% according to UBOS live below the poverty line. That's just an estimation. And the
Okay.
internet penetration in this country is very low. So how feasible is this? It's a good policy. It's a good initiative. Our students and pupils need to be in position to be informed and use these facilities. But how
Research is
sure are
very
we?
quicker.
How sure are we that, because let us use a simple analogy. For those who went to boarding school, on VD, when your parents, there are students whose parents would come and visit them.
Yes.
And then there are those students or pupils whose parents never used to come and visit.
Yes.
We used to help carry the eats.
Yeah, we'd share, like sit and eat. You know that
You
they,
would
they
share?
yes, me, I would share.
Why would
Honestly,
you share?
sit and share. I personally, we would share.
So,
Why would you share?
so this is
Like we would share.
this
Carry
is
like a very
so,
long
so,
way
so,
you-
so yes, let's just look at this analogy. That kid who is always visited and they bring him or her a lot of grub, and then there's this kid who is barely visited and he has no grub at all. That kid who is never visited feels extremely bad.
Yes.
At times, if the kid is bad, ends up stealing. If the kid is a good student, will obviously, okay, mommy and daddy are this and that.
And
But
primary.
yeah, in primary or secondary, whichever level. Now let's just relate this to the phone issue here at hand. That we have a country that, first of all, even I told you, we barely have resources such as desks. Even paying teachers is an issue. Even paying our medical interns is an issue. So how feasible shall we even be able to, fully implement this idea of having the students have funds, because not all the students will have it. It's true that we have the pros
Okay.
of e-learning in terms of students accessing information, but in my opinion, the cause would outweigh that idea.
I
Maybe
personally,
then-
I'm not. I
Maybe then on
agree.
implementation,
Yeah.
let them start from the rural areas coming this side.
No, actually,
Yes, true.
for me, I would say yes. We accept the cons are there, but we need to look at the end benefit of it all. Let alone that I would question during
It's a-
COVID, like
yeah.
I would argue during COVID, there are very many. Cavendish was able to continue studying, right? There are very many things that happened during COVID. How didn't we use this same ideology that is being put in place now? Then how comes we were able to benefit? That means if you, according to what you suggested,
Then-
like there's a way it eventually gained.
then
It
that was
gained,
desperation.
yeah.
Let us
No,
just
let's
listen.
get, no, like,
Okay, guys.
there's a way it gained,
Let's
but
just-
eventually, right now, that is when the question of, okay, should we adopt technology? You see, that's when the question
All right,
came around.
let's
That
just-
means it's
Let's
necessary.
first hang
And
in
we
there.
can't do
Let's
without
first hang
it.
in there and I bring in Jovia and Amos. Jovia, before you come in, another ticking question. COVID still is our benchmark. The president said we are going to give radios. Radios
Yeah.
to students, to pupils and students who, first of all, do not have electricity at their home
I'm reading material.
and reading material. Did that happen? No. So now with
Reading
this
material was
policy,
delivered.
As well as the
Yes,
radios.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. they
which
were
which
delivered.
places received the
At least
radio?
I received the reading material. At least I did. I received the
All right,
reading
let's
material.
just listen in from Jovia.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I think as an M&E person, it's high time we embrace change.
Thank you.
People. This technology or e-learning is really cost effective. Besides us buying textbooks, what? You're not going to find me with a heap of books now if e-learning has come. For example, if I want any book, me myself, I'll go on Google, download it, read.
Thank you.
And summarize. For real. And also, I'm calling upon the government, since they want to pass on that policy. I think M&E has to be taken. They need to really monitor and evaluate. How are those rural people carrying out their education? How are they accessing that good quality they are talking about? Because Uganda is one of the countries that is really promoting the SDG 4. But what are those measures that need to be put in place? That what exactly is, like, for example, a village of Chitoba, Hoima, beyond even, there are those villages whereby even you find a person cannot even access a 32-page book. So I think M&E really needs to come up, and just like Brian said, it needs to start from the rural area coming to the urban.
And we said it's okay, we can do all that. But realistically speaking,
It will
our
really,
government-
really work.
Greg.
Once-
Let's get out of
once
here.
once change is embraced,
According
will
to
really come.
our submission, realistically, would you have the zeal to let's say you're in government,
Yeah.
yes, and they're saying let's implement this. Would you have the zeal started from rural or from urban? If your kid is in urban,
Start in urban.
yes. It's
Okay,
possible.
this I feel
You
you
know
thinking of it starting from rural to urban is just an imagination.
it's not an
Yes.
imagination.
And
It is an
imagination.
You
but
see,
it can be
No, no,
done.
It can be done, but
yes, it
you know,
can be done.
the fact is,
Let me-
Because you
let me tell
employ
the
people-
bit.
I feel
me
that's
tell you the
just
bit.
an
Let me tell you the bit.
imagination.
The
And
bit
let me
is,
tell you-
when you start from rural, you have a lot of zeal to finish it. Because people in urban centers
Yes.
are educated
And
they
also,
demand. But from urban
in
going
M1E, we have tools. You'll use Kobo tool, download the app, put in the questions that you need your audience or your participants to tell you. You just tick or insert no or yes. It's very easy.
That's
Now
theory.
you're urban living.
That's theory.
urban living.
Yeah,
But it's
I
okay.
feel
Let's-
it's just an
let's-
imagination.
Romans is
Because
using it.
It's
when-
all right. Let's
it's
first
just
get
an
it.
It's okay.
imagination.
when we look at me personally, coming from Mutukula, you get Mutukula. You can't tell me that you're going to tell the students or our parents all the way from Kakuto to buy for me a phone of 30K. Because him and her, they don't have also. You understand?
That's a realistic.
And that's what we faced mostly. I was in the village by COVID. I was in the village because after the closure of the schools, they told us, please go in the village. Things may happen here. Just run. So when schools were open, I think I was done with senior 6. Yeah, I couldn't. I wanted to come and join, but no transport, from Mutukula, what and what. This Massacre Road, it is still closed. A lot of issues. So we faced a lot of problems and challenges from those students from Mutukula who studied from Kampala.
So that-
One,
that's
transport
just an
was-
example of what other Ugandans
Greg,
are going through.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to ask you, from his submission, yes, who do you think accessed Zoom classes?
No one
Was it the kids in rural areas or in urban?
in urban areas.
in urban
Yes,
areas.
so we were affected
of
in certain
correction.
way. We were affected. Only urban students accessed it.
All right,
Point of correction.
Let's
Not all
now
urban.
let's first zero down and come back now to the conversation. We have somewhat swayed and moved down so much to the feasibility of the policy. And yes, it's debatable because all of us have an opinion on whether it's possible or not. But the idea here is we're looking at e-learning as a tool that could possibly change the trajectory of education in our country. Now, as in us understanding, so we have looked at the possible pros, which are the possible advantages of us having e-learning, but also the possible negative effects. But now, let us now have a deeper understanding or deeper conversation in terms of what is happening now. Let's look at a global scale in terms of how the world is moving at a fast rate. Things to do with artificial intelligence. Yeah? Artificial intelligence is changing the way education is running in various parts of the world. If you go onto the internet, you can put your work on AI and have it done. So this question is going to go to Alan. Even when we have this revolution coming in, that the kids will therefore have their phones in school, won't we start having people plagiarize and avoid or have a new generation of people who are very lazy to do their work?
I would still fall back to my statement of it's an individual initiative. Like it falls back to your personal effort. And that is when we are going to have to seek for more practical efforts of everything. Like, we're going to test more the practicability of your what you can put on table than what you're able to put on paper. That is what is going to push us to. That's what I can say.
All right. That's what you can say. Let me just get to you, Brian. I'm still interested in the governance issue. Let's say we adopt this policy. The issue to do with the issue with human resource building in this country has been very poorly funded, and that alone has resulted into producing very many job seekers than creators themselves. So would this policy lead or have a U-turn to the status quo?
Well, that would depend on, as she said, an individual basis. Yeah, because then you would get to know that if my parents are paying my tuition to go and study law, I ought to study, put in the time, and get the law in my head. Because then when I come out, even whereas yes, the beginning stage I need to be a job seeker, in sort of 2, 3, 4 months, I'll create something. Take for example, he talked about the lockdown and then he has this soap making thing. Not all of us did that. Yes, that is at your personal initiative. Do you want to develop or you want to stay where you are? Yes, that is on you primarily. So you're having these countries that you're calling developed countries moving at that rate. It's not that they did not have these technologies. They had them. But it's also not a lie that they also have a certain caliber of citizens who have refused to move. So either you use the technology, better yourself, or you just stop wailing.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yes, Jovia.
To add on what Brian has said, we all know that today, if you don't come from a well-off family, you will not. Yes, if you don't come from a well-off family, you will not be there.
Who knows you?
Exactly. But if you build the brand of your name, and someone says Drake, once someone hears Drake, he or she will know what does Drake do. It's obvious.
Plus, you're the only Drake.
Exactly. So you yourself,
but it's okay.
you yourself, actually, all students who are using e-learning, let them put this at the back of their mind, that time runs fast. So if they don't use this chance to better themselves and also to put themselves out there to use this technology, besides education, I'm sure there is also branding, and branding has also it's on high level on the digital forum. That is why if you know that in 4 years to come, I'm done with my law course, I have a dream, or I have a vision, or I have a target of coming up with a law firm, then start now. Don't use the AI just to help you pass your exams. But what is the outcome of you passing the exam? Someone will make you stand in front. Talk about this. Are you capable? Or you will start staggering and shaking when you have nothing to put on the table.
Paper-wise, brilliant.
Exactly. Paper-wise, yes. That is why sometimes you find someone with a heavy paper, resume, but their work input, or their activities they are bringing, they are totally nothing compared to the resume that he or she has presented to you. Yeah.
Yes, let's just have him come back to you.
Okay.
I want to first add on her comment. Let me first come back to you, Mr. Moderator. You talked about laziness. When this thing comes in, it's true, because I've witnessed it and I've tested it. I'm a computer science student. Trust me, we develop applications, websites, and all stuff. But when you visit the AI, it can surely give you a full code of an application of WhatsApp. You understand? So that means I'm not using my common knowledge of coming up with a Java code to develop my WhatsApp application. So when I put that WhatsApp app, for example, this Musitwa's FM WhatsApp something, the reason why it is still banned up to date, the owner doesn't have the backup code. Where did he get it from to bring FM WhatsApp on board, on Play Store and everywhere? Because he used an AI application. By the time they requested for the backup or some updates, he didn't have it. You get? So that created and led to the downfall of WhatsApp FM and something. So it has created a lot of laziness in students currently. Because you asked me a question, pros and cons of e-learning. Just put ChatGPT, e-learning and stuff. So it pours all 15, but I have no anything in my head. You understand? So I just cram and go. That's why in Uganda or Africa, we still have that challenge of employment. We employ people than something in the head, skill. So when you find out that everyone has a phone, everyone has a computer, that means currently we don't have them, and we lost the virginity of practicals. We don't have them currently. So imagine we have the phones, all of us. Now, will we have them? We can't access them because we are a third world country, very poor. So we have to first organize ourselves. That's what Mr. President said. Make a survey. You can't just come and stand and say, okay, all schools should have phones. How do you stand? On which corner are you standing on? You get? So my thing is, let the government look into this before they embark on it.
Yeah, Alan, you had something to say.
Planning.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going still on the same line. I'm going to say it's like productivity. I'm going to be very honest. Several people I have met that inspire me, allow me reserve the names. I realized when you go and sit down to their stories, they're going to tell you they worked well, they were studying, right? So this is AI. This is technology that is coming to help us. And we cannot run away from the truth that it is here and it is here to stay. It's like you saying you're running away from your eye. It's with you. It's on you. You cannot go anywhere. So we cannot keep limiting ourselves. You're speaking of the laziness, but the people who are going to benefit from this, people like me, I would say confidently, because sometimes I'm going to have to go to, someone has to go to work. When they reach work, they're able to learn online. I remember recently I received a call from UNICAF. Sorry. So they were asking, they told me I'd been admitted on a scholarship, but they told me, are you working? That was the first question. Sorry, that was the first question. I told them I'm not working. They asked me, are you aware it's online? I see the kind of mind that they're creating. They're telling me you are studying, but you have to work.
Flexibility.
You see, like that is, we should stop pampering ourselves, yeah? We keep saying you should go to class, do this, but this technology is going to help us. Let it help those who are willing to help themselves and help those who are willing to learn. But even in the system we have right now, it's the people who are not willing to take it up, right? Like the current system, we're not going to run with everyone, and we cannot limit our own development and growth because we think that people are going to limit themselves. We have a problem with maybe the finances we have as a country are not enough, but we cannot keep relying on that and limiting ourselves from growing, yeah? If we take up this technology, you never know. I'm going to study, I'm having something creative, I'm learning a skill, I'm being productive. By the time I graduate, I have something that is kicking me through, yeah? So we cannot keep running here and there. We need to accept the truth, accept the problem we have, and work with our problem.
All right.
Yes, Madam Jovia, Mr. Moderator, we accepted the truth. We very well know that we accept it. But we are on a context of the government bringing it as a law that each and every one must pass. Currently, universities have e-learning. No one is interrupting. Other high schools and secondary schools, they do have. But if it is a law, then it is affecting. Currently, it may not affect you because you do have, and the person in the village is attending a physical class, it is okay. But if you say it is a law, then that means you're making other people to be cut off.
I believe it's going to cause a certain kind of pressure that is going to force people to adopt it. If you're going to leave it on a relaxed tone, it's not going to move. We need to exert a certain kind of pressure, just like COVID. COVID exerted a certain kind of pressure on us as Ugandans. That is why we're now questioning, oh yes, we need to adopt this. Oh yes, America is doing this, we need to do this. That is the pressure we need. But if you're going to say, oh my God, my feet is hurt, I can't walk. If all babies used to say my feet is weak and I can't walk, then none of us would be walking, right? But we need to accept our feet is weak and harden as we move.
All right, let's just quickly go for a break. I know the conversation is heated and I can see everyone is fired up and everyone is contributing. Let's just quickly go for a short break. See you in a bit. Stay with us. Bye-bye.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break. Just before we went into the break, we were discussing the pros and cons of e-learning to the students, but also its impact it has on the revolution in this country in terms of having students adopt and embrace e-education. So as we're discussing and having an in-depth conversation, it's been an interesting half of the show, and I think just before we went into the break, the panel was quite heated, and people are exchanging ideas and engaged in back and forth discussion. But let's just now look at. I just want us at this point in time to maybe focus the conversation more on the idea of what will make this possible. What is required to make this a reality? Because we have looked at scenarios, we have looked at the pros, we have looked at the cons. We have looked at the question of governance, but then let us speak from the idea of from all our experiences in our institutions. UCU, Cavendish, Ndejje, Makerere, among other universities. All of us have those lived experiences in higher institutions. So what is there that needs to be done differently to ensure that this policy in secondary schools and primary schools works out? Because we have seen institutions of higher learning like Makerere, UCU, MOOBS, Chambogo, etc., come up with this with adopting e-learning, and it has worked for them. So I'll start with you, Brian. What can these institutions do? Yeah, what can the primary schools do, the secondary schools do with the proposed policy that the ministry is looking at, do to make sure that it's a success?
Thank you so much. I would really think, just to be honest, I would really think that they have the lowest part to do.
Yeah.
I think the biggest part would come from government. Because at that stage, we, the primary schools, would do the implementation. Because this is a policy that, let's say, even if it moves through, it doesn't. The fact that you want it to be implemented begins with the very basics of massive sensitization. Yes, because the way the newspapers currently have portrayed it, they make it look like a small thing, but this is actually a very big thing. So that starts from Ministry of Education coming down with a team, and they do massive publicity about it. Massive publicity means that whereas you have the virtual TV, radio sensitization programs, you also have teams from Ministry of Education coming on radio talk shows, because we have a class of people who listen to only radio talk shows, and a class of people who go to these civic spaces to listen in. Other people go to radio, to TV stations, yes? So we need to have sort of a 3 months rigorous campaign program about this, so that people understand its impact, both the positive as well as the negative. Now at that stage is when you then zero down. You have another team that is coming to meet with the regional education supervisors and the related, yes? Because now that is how we primary schools get the information, because then the DEOs, district education officers, when you have that meeting with them, they then come, let's say they say maybe from Chira, we want to meet up with the heads of schools. So in those meetings, then they could invite the owners of the schools or the head teachers and the deans of students, so that they have that sort of understanding. So this has to take sort of a year. Reason is when, again, it's just a cycle. When they come down to us as schools, now the students, now the school sits and says, at that stage, can we afford? Yes, because some schools are government aided, but not fully government. Other schools are on private, and private, that means either someone started up the school when they were in their retirement, so they have to check their books, or someone is getting from their job and pumping in the school. So that needs budgeting, that people need to sit down and say, oh, are we going to increase fees? Then when they make that assessment, it's very easy for Ministry of Education to say, you know what, we are going to allow schools increase a certain percentage of school fees so that this fits within. Because the question will be, is government providing these tablets free of charge to the institutions? Or are the institutions buying the tablets themselves or the phones? If the parents can afford, okay. But if they cannot afford, again to our question on the aspect of accessibility, will government provide? So then that takes a term. We then sit down with our students and say, you know what, P7, P6, P5, beginning next term, we might have some classes done virtually and some classes done physical. Virtually, not that it's going to be fully, but your lecturer will be in, your teacher will be in rather, but we'll have recorded sessions. Take, for example, during lockdown, we had Zoom recorded classes. At that stage, then you say maybe next time, because then it gives you space, ample time to make sort of a progress checkup. Is it workable within us? Are the funds within, because all these things come into place. That is just how it would be.
All right. Let me bring in the M&E personnel to help us cross-check with what Brian has just talked about.
Okay, to add on that, thank you so much, Brian. Well, here it's going to even be past the primary schools or the radio that you're talking about, because since I have an organization that I own, I've moved to certain communities whereby you find a family has no radio at all. So it will need the government to come up with a team that are going to do door-to-door advocacy about this new e-learning technology that has come up. And also, the team has to be aware that when they are really evaluating or when they are doing that kind of publicity, they need to be ethical. They need to follow certain guidelines, ethical guidelines, whereby, for example, you will find a family has no radio. You need to know why. Before you start judging them, you need to really have some humanity in you. Yeah.
Okay. Let me bring you Alan. And understanding that our context in this country, oftentimes when it comes to this issue to do with e-learning, but generally the education sector, it is plagued with a couple of issues. You find that medical students are not being, the medical students who are for internship are not being paid. You find that teachers are on countless strikes. Education generally is poorly funded. And now this is a policy that we want to adopt in all these institutions. Are we really picking the right battle at the right time?
Speaking of the right battle at the right time, I would say it's two-sided, because we need both ends resolved. Yeah, we cannot say we're going to pick on the medical students. We cannot say we're going to pick on the teachers studying, the teachers striking. We cannot say we're going to leave out the adoption of the technology, because eventually, if we leave out, eventually both ends are affected. So this is an entire system. I will still fall back and say, we need to know that this is something we have in place. We need to know our problem, which we already know that, yes, our problem, our funding is very low. We already know our country's, the amount of money we have as a country, the gross domestic product, like this GDP, we know it's very low. So if you're going to, we need to just appreciate, I'm going to use a story, something came in my mind earlier, that you know how our parents told us their stories of how they kept struggling through the journey despite being poor. And you know how families set priorities and just keep pushing. They maybe presume, maybe let me push the firstborn. In the olden days, education was in a particular area, but it eventually spread out. Yeah. So let's just let's not chew more. Let's not swallow more than what we can. Let's not swallow more than we can chew. Yeah. Like, let's not take in more than we can chew. Let's just work within what we can do.
So
we cannot
what
say.
can we do?
What we can do, if there's a particular group, just like universities have adopted the e-learning, let's let them take it on. If there's a way we can push others to take it on, like you said, some schools may be in primary schools, some people may need to invest in. So it comes to a personal initiative. It's going to push people differently. So we cannot limit others because others are not able to do so. Let's be open-minded. Let's resolve the problem as it comes. Let's accept that technology is here and we cannot deny its penetration. Even these people in rural areas, some of them are able to access the smartphones. Aren't they able to? We cannot say we're going to collect everyone at once. We already know our problem. Our finances cannot able, just like you mentioned, we're not able to pay the medical interns. So we need to just kick off. As we kick off, the problem will get resolved. Just like I said, if the countries from which we benchmark from are able to achieve these things, despite them taking on the technology, everyone has problems. We just need to take off and chew what we can, achieve what we can, fall when we fall, rise when we rise.
Okay. Chewing what we can when we have medical interns languishing with...
but that's why we have ministries.
Yeah, that's why we have ministries,
Thank
yes.
you.
What I'm trying to understand, beat my mind around, is we have all these vagaries around us, and we are, picking more, yet we already failed to sort out the challenges that we already experienced.
That's why you have ministries.
Yes,
That's why you need to look
I
at
want to
capacity
bring a question to him. When your eye is sick, your leg is sick, and your hand is sick, are you going to say you're going to only treat your eye and leave out your hand and your foot? You need all the three. So you're going to...
Let us not look at it from this angle. The argument is, we oftentimes argue from an idealistic point of view, and we do not look at the reality. The reality is, if you have taken time, let me just use an example, personal experience. Sometime we went for a burial in Kumi district, in a village called Adodai. There's a primary school there called Okelo something primary school. One primary school serves approximately 500,000 people in the community. One primary school. And if you see the blocks in that primary school, I think they're like 4 blocks. And a community of 500,000 people all going to that one primary school. Then they also have one secondary school. In terms of facility, first of all, 3 classes, and other people sitting under the tree. And then here you're coming up with ideas of coming up with...
Can I
Let me ask you a question.
Can I just get in there a little? Like, can I say, we need to... Do you know there's a period in time when that particular school was not there? You know it was not there at a certain point, yeah? It was eventually established. And I'm going to assure you in the next 10 years, the fact that this is a disease that is chewing the community, we are going to be forced to advocate for more schools in that environment. I'm very sure after you speaking about it, there's somebody out there who has had the district you have mentioned, and they'll, just like the monitoring and evaluation, just like you say, shares and organizations, this is a benchmark. You need to just do what you can, try your best, pray to God that you, for God and my country, we are a Christian country. I believe we need to pray to God to help us through this journey. So eventually, it's all about, let's kick off. The problem we shall eventually get there. If you're going to keep imagining our failures, just like, are you sure of where you're going to be after now? Or did you imagine yourself here before? You didn't, but you chose to take up the step. Let's take up the step. The problem, we cannot deny that the medical interns are not being paid. It's an issue that is being resolved, yeah? There's a ministry tackling that. I remember recently when we were at the fireplace discussion at Ndejje, where the deputy speaker spoke of how it's like they're working on it, they're trying to resolve it. They realize it's an issue that is coming from the different, just like there's the Uganda Law Society, so the medical society has it's like it falls at that particular end. So if you're going to collect everything and throw it at people, you need to understand that it's a general thing. It's going to help me, it's going to help you. So it needs to fall back to individual basis. It's going to go to government. It's going to like it's a whole round. It's like a ball, yeah. You cannot say this is the center of the ball because it's round, yeah. So if it's an entire round thing, so we just need to kick off from where we can prick. When we prick and penetrate through, well and good. If we don't penetrate through, we are going to rise and keep pushing. The more we refuse to try, the more we are going to keep singing these songs and debating and arguing.
I like the optimism.
Yeah.
The access to the actual sad reality is we're in Uganda.
So in other words, we really need to look at development. Let us focus on the development.
It's okay. Let's bring in Amos.
Yes. Realistically, we should look at the development, well and good. But development is not a one-day thing, as she had said. It's not a one-day thing that I'm born today, tomorrow I'm taking porridge. It's not there. You should first circle. So after like 6 months, they give you some something. It's a process.
It's a process.
So this process started because I don't think that the Ministry of Health can come to UC University, then it bans Moodle, can it?
No, it can't.
It can't because it already started. It is there. No one is banning e-learning in any institution. But the question from the moderator was, how are we going to sustain this if at all it comes? That is e-learning. One, we focus much. He gave an example of Kumi. I think it is Kumi. May I still give an example of my village? Because I know my village better than Kumi. You get? One of the things that when I go to the village, I even switch off the phone because I can't access network, even if MTN, even if Airtel. You get? You cannot call me. When I cross Chotera, you cannot call me again. I just need to get a certain place. I do what? I call you. Then we jazz. I tell you, I'm from the tree now, I'm going in the house. You cannot call me again. You get? So when we still have such challenges, masks are not enough. The internet connection is not everywhere. You understand? We don't have like access to this wireless internet. So we still have a challenge. One thing we should do, the government should sensitize. One, as you talked about, sensitization is crucial. Even right now at UCU, there is a student who doesn't know how to log into Moodle. You understand? Because sensitization is low. So how are you telling me that a student from the village, he or she got a scholarship at UCU, is going to access Moodle day one? He can't. That means he needs, that means he needs sensitization. Then we lack sensitization from the government. So the problem from the government is we come and implement without sensitizing me. Then how do you think I'm going to cope up with the implementation that you're putting? You understand?
But again, I remember in your previous argument, you came up with a statement of how you are against the policy they're trying to put in place.
Yes, I am, because of that issue.
Don't you think?
Because of I'm against the policy.
Them putting up a policy is going to cause a certain pressure that is going to force government to. Because if there's a policy in place, the local people are going to come up and say, we are not aware of how these things work. Government is going to be compelled to perform. And in the same way, the people are going to be compelled to perform. So it's a two-way thing. Like
the reason why personally I'm against this policy, because one, they have not done their part of sensitization.
Let me ask you a question.
You get?
Let me ask you a question.
Performing it.
Are you interested in development?
Yes, I do. Yes, performing this policy, performing sensitization. If they did that, you can't tell me that you're buying for me. For example, you're implementing e-learning in the village. Then after 1 month, you're coming for sensitization. That means by the month you're coming, most of them are affected in one way or the other. You know, sensitization first, then implement.
But then how long will we sensitize? We can't be sure.
But we haven't been sensitized.
We just need to start off. We shall eventually get there.
Let me tell you something.
But your submissions were contradictory.
Also, yes. But also, you see e-learning at UCU. UCU usually has 2 weeks for orientation.
Yes, orientation.
And I cannot believe that someone who has attended orientation on e-learning.
Thank you.
For 2 good weeks, you're going to fail how to put your password, your access number as you're logging in, and you're going to even fail because these orientations are done with illustrations on the projector.
Let alone that.
And
there's
also,
an entire ICT department.
Exactly. The MYS.
Like it's
really
there.
doing its best for
Yes,
these
let me-
students.
You see you marketing.
No,
Let's-
No, we are
This
not
is
marketing.
not
Not
like you're
marketing.
trying to create a
This
picture
thing
here.
is
Like,
also
so
done.
eventually
This thing is
get
also
to
done
the
at
argument.
V class.
I get all your
Yeah,
Yes.
arguments.
I
Yeah.
get.
His argument,
Mm.
he centered on the idea. See how all of you are now just centered on the higher institutions of learning.
Yeah.
You have neglected the idea of primary and
Yes.
secondary schools.
No, it's
No,
not.
Yeah.
we
are not
neglected because this
But
is
I'm
our
trying
best-
to
this
show
is
him
where
that
the thing is.
there
The
is
thing
that
we want is
orientation
there.
that takes place.
True.
The
So-
sentence.
So
we haven't
you
refused that.
Mm.
We haven't refused that. Bottom line is,
Mm.
bottom line is,
Primary.
how feasible will even this be? The feasibility is
You know,
greatly.
you're trying
It
to.
is
greatly-
possible.
Do you know
Once
what
you
we are
want
doing? Do you know
development,
what,
you have to go for it.
Mr. Moderator? I would say what you're
Anyway,
doing
my
is judging the
opinions are
depth of
not
water
supposed
by
to-
looking
Okay.
at the
You
water.
guys are supposed to give
Test
us
the
insight.
depth of the water.
Yes,
Test the
exactly.
depth of the water and then be sure whether you can sink or you can swim. And if you're
Yes.
going to sink, you're going to be forced to swim.
Yeah.
All right, it's okay. Let's say, I think at this point in time, we just maybe now get to towards the end of the conversation. But as we edge towards the end of our conversation, I'm going to start from Amos, and we just look at possibilities. As we sum up the conversation, we look at possibilities of this particular policy and generally e-learning in this country. In my opinion, yes, it's a necessity. It being a necessity means there are certain hurdles we have to face as a country. But as we face those hurdles, what are the possible nearest next steps, and what can be done differently to better embrace e-learning? So the question will go to all of you, but I'll start with Amos.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think one of the possibilities that we should do, or that can come across, the government should come and at least assist the parents who are not able to adopt it. Me, I think so. Because if you bring a law and I can't, then that means you have to help me adopt it. Then if you can't help me, it will be very hard for me, even if I push my village parents, even if they push. But if you come and say, but this phone, at least, as the president said, that we have radios, at least each village of Mayanja, one radio. Students on Monday, you come and listen. On till Friday, students, you come and gather chairman's home and listen. That was okay, you get. And it really helped in that thing of COVID. So the government, if it can come, or ministries and other stuff, to help upon these parents who can, then I think we are good to go on this.
Okay. Jovia.
Thank you. Well, me, I'm calling upon the government to really advance the level of technology. Since this policy or law is going to, or has already been put in place. Because for sure, if a child of Nakapiripit cannot access education, and yet we are always talking about quality education for all, and yet and when we look at the technology, levels are really low in such areas. Me, as an advocate of SDGs, I'm calling upon the government to polish up the technology part. Yeah.
Okay. Polish up the technology part.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. President.
Well, thank you so much. Mine would mainly go to Ministry of Education, because you see, this whole discussion still falls back to Ministry of Education. One is to get suitable partners on this journey, and that includes mandatorily, you have to bring Ministry of ICT on board. You have to bring bodies like NITA on board, as well as you need to bring, for institutions of higher learning, you need to bring a National Council for Higher Education on board.
UCC.
Yes, you need to bring all these things, all these bodies that can help you. Now, those are partners. The reason as to why you need that is so that when you're doing a benchmark exercise, it's easy to understand, one, the statistics of the people you're dealing with, the Ugandan village in general. Get Northern Uganda, break it down. Get Eastern, get Western, and Central. Such one, you know the number of students you're dealing with. If you're saying we are looking at primary, you're getting data from UNEB, because now we've already submitted names for our candidates. You get to know maybe this is the P7 slot that is moving out. So we are not going to account for that. Those ones are going into the next financial year, which is, then they will be in S1. So now we are looking at a lot of P62, maybe baby class. or maybe say to P1, which classes do we want to implement? Because for institutions of higher learning which already have the modus operandi, leave them to have that running. Maybe you could just say, let's help them put it to the next level.
Maybe just work on the cost of data. I think that would be
Yes,
more
maybe that.
feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd say, for institutions of higher learning, let's maintain, but just make it better, quicker and better and more user-friendly. Then say for secondary and primary, we are now going to do the whole process of implementation, which includes rigorous sensitization. Give it a time frame. Say maybe for the next 6 months, we are going to do only sensitization. Then from there, then you say now we are going to do a partial implementation. Get down to A level, have a partial implementation, see how it moves down for the next 6 months. That's a year. Then say now let's bring in O level. So that by the time you're going down to the already all the stakeholders would have already put in the budgeting, just like what I submitted earlier. It's something that is workable because we need it. And let's cut down the discussion of this is a luxury. It's not a luxury at any one point. We need it. The truth is we want to develop. You cannot say you want to develop and again you do not want to take a risk. You take the risk, you move along. Anything that comes along the way, have a department ready, a sort of a disaster preparedness unit ready to handle that. But you keep moving. That is why you as break, you want to go and study outside. Because they already passed that stage of industrial revolution. So if we want to move to that level, we need to be ready to. But then the real question then comes, is government willing to take that next step? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So for me, I would basically say that it's a general responsibility. It goes to government, it falls back to the individuals for which the government is doing this for. For government, I would say it's generally just like I've mentioned. They're going to have to work on policies, they're going to have to work on mobilization, they need to educate the public more about it, and not to give up, but to keep pushing. But my emphasis would be on the individual efforts of the young people. You know, we need to take a step forward, we need to, when this comes to us, we need to take on the responsibility and we need to put everything in the best way possible, make it as productive as it can be to us, because we cannot run away from the fact, like you're saying, that we should educate the public. We don't have the funds, just like I mentioned, we're having so many problems already. So if government is able to put up policies, it's able to put pressure, it's able to work within what it can do, we believe we are in the right direction to achieve our goal. And educating the public about mass sensitization about this would be of great use, but still I would implore the public that please take on every opportunity given to us positively, and we need to ensure that this is beneficial. Even if it's not, if somebody is misusing it and for you are able to use it right, please do let it yield you, let it benefit you. Basically that.
All right, interesting. Guys, it's been an interesting panel, an interesting conversation. You guys have made my role very easy in this conversation because it was engaging.
I'm glad.
So I'm very happy that you guys have given us a very wonderful insight to the conversation tonight. It's been a pleasure having you, Amos, Jovia, Mr. President, and lastly, my able sister, who has been very vocal in the conversation, Alan. Thank you very much. Otherwise, this is the Inter-University Debate or Show, brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance and aired on Civic Space TV. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.